Welcome to Math 24/7. We have Equations and Inequalities, Lesson 5 for Grade 6 Independent and Dependent Events. So, here we're going to talk about independent and dependent variables. Remember, variables are letters that stand for a specific, or not a specific, but many different numbers that could be inputted to find different solutions. So, today we're going to start with independent variable. It is the fixed variable or the constant, the one that stays the same. It doesn't vary. It's independent of the other. And it can be represented by the x coordinate. Okay, so we've already done the coordinate plane. So remember, the x is the the horizontal axis, and sometimes is called the control. So time is always, if there's minutes, seconds, hours, millennia, years, time is always, this is the one, always going to be the x coordinate. The dependent variable is the responsive variable. So it is dependent on whatever the independent variable is, and it can be represented by the y coordinate. And it changes based on whatever the independent variable is. So total cost, for example, could be the y, which depends on, the number of hours that maybe you're getting paid for. So the cost would change depending on that. So we're going to look at some examples here. And it says, Jameson runs M miles and burns C number of calories. So miles is going to be, in this case, our independent, because the number of calories will depend on how many miles we ran. So miles, M, and calories burned, C. Okay, so think about it this way. So the more hours Brady practices, the better his test grade, G, will be. So if he practices 1 hour, his grade will be something. 2 hours, it will change. So the grades will change by the amount of hours. So again, we always talked about 2. Hours is time. Time, hours practiced. I'm going to make that slower, and we're going to call that H. And the dependent is his test grade. And that is G. Michael pays $8.99 per month streaming his subscription. So the number of months will make the cost dependent. So months, and we're going to make this one up, will be the independent, because the cost will depend on how many months we do it. That's the one for 1 month. So the dependent is the total cost. And we'll call that T. Okay? A car travels 60 miles per hour. Okay? So we don't know how far it goes because it depends on how many hours we go. So the independent, again, is hours. Okay? And the dependent is how many miles we have gone. Total miles, right? At the end of it. Next, we have another couple examples. Each slice of pizza costs $6 at the football game. So the cost is $6 per slice of pizza, but we don't know what the total cost is going to be. So the number of pizzas, and we're going to call that comma P, will tell us our total cost. And we'll call that T. The later Jessie stays up at night, the sleepier she is. So our independent variable is how late, or the hours, number of hours slept. I'm going to shorten this, hours slept. And the dependent is her sleepiness. Not sure exactly how you would quantify sleepiness, but maybe the number of minutes you sleep in class, not sure. Just another example to show you that one thing depends on the other, the independent. And so we can use graphs. We're going to start looking at these graphs and tables. Can also display independent and dependent quantities. We've talked about the x and y axis, so we know we can talk about graphs. So here is a graph. Remember, this is the x, this is the y, so this is the independent, this is the dependent. So what is the independent variable? Well, based on what we just talked about, the x-axis is always the independent, and this is the x, so it is the number of weeks. So that means our dependent is total miles run. And in this case, we have list the independent quantities. So what they mean by that is, what did we label the bottom number of? So it's going to be, 1, 2, 3, all the way, I'm not writing them all the way to 10. That'll be my shortcut. Dependent quantities are, and if you look up at each corner, this is kind of what we're looking at, okay? All the way up, we're doing 3, 6, 9, all the way to, where'd we go, 27? And actually, if we kept going, it would go all the way to 30, but by threes. And I'll just kind of put that by threes. So if we were to write an equation, because this goes by threes, if we take the x, which is this, so 1 times 3, that is going to equal our y, what it is. So if it was 1 week, our y would be 3. 2 weeks, our y would be 6, and so forth. And we know that does work because we're able to plug the numbers in for x, and we get the y coordinate. So again, use your knowledge of the coordinate plane, use your knowledge of writing equations, and now we're kind of putting them all together. So now we have tables. So let me remind you, we did talk about this in the coordinate plane as well. Remember, time is always the x. And we always write the x and the y. The x always goes on top of the y. Okay, so when you're looking at a table, you always know it's x and y. If it is this way, you always know that the x comes first, then the y. So whichever way your table is oriented, the x is always first. All right, independent is hours, h. Dependent is miles, m. And if we were to write an equation, if we took the hours, what would we have to multiply it by to get miles? So 130. So what would be what 1 would be? And that will find out our constant. Half of 130 is 65. So it's going to be hours times 65 equals our miles. Okay? Or you could switch it around, say miles equals 65 times h. Remember, a letter next to a number means multiplication. Same thing up here. We've already got a 1, so we don't even have to worry about. So it's the independent is the months, the number of months. Dependent is our total cost. Okay, so the dependent goes on the outside, cost. Independent goes on the middle, and we have to multiply it by something in this case. So it's going to be 3.99 per the number of months. So 1 month would be $3.99. If I put a 2 in there, it should be $7.98, and so forth. Okay, that's how we write our equations. Here we go. So now, just like we said on the other one, x and y, x comes first, same thing. This is x, y, x, y, x, y. So I'm going to label those so you remember which one's the independent. You also can tell time, 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 each one of them. Independent variable is, in this case, we're looking for the quantities. So this is 3, 6, 9, and 12, 165, 330, 495, and 660. Those are the quantities for each of them. So here we go, 1 through 4, and 0.75, 1.5, 2.25, and 3. And over here, our quantities, we can put these in order too. 4, 8, 12, 16, 14, 28. You can see the pattern if we put them all in the same order. 42 and 56. So, in a nutshell, independent and dependent variables, X and Y coordinates, all related to the coordinate plane, all related to writing equations. And as you can see, we're going to be doing a little bit more with this, but all related math, all building upon those math skills that you've had in previous units. That is the end. If you are all set, please go on to your homework. If not, please let me know and I can help you out.